This is Guns and Butter.
There's something happening, yeah. What it is ain't exactly clear. There's a man with a gun over there.
The value of a house or a company or a toll road or a street that you can put parking meters on is however much a bank will lend against it, and a interest-bearing capacity of any asset is what's looked at as wealth. Well, the reality is that debt isn't wealth, debt is debt. Debt is the antithesis of wealth, and somehow there's been an inversion, a turning inside out or upside down of the whole idea of what wealth is, and now the idea is saying that debt is wealth. Well, that's like saying that war is peace.
I'm Bonnie Faulkner. Today on Guns and Butter, Dr. Michael Hudson. Today's show, dress rehearsal for debt peonage. Michael Hudson is a financial economist and historian. He is president of the Institute for the Study of Long-Term Economic Trend, a Wall Street financial analyst, and distinguished research professor of economics at the University of Missouri, Kansas City. His 1972 book, Super Imperialism, The Economic Strategy of American Empire, is a critique of how the United States exploited foreign economies through the IMF and World Bank. He is also author of The Myth of Aid and Global Fracture, The New International Economic Order. Dr. Hudson has written many articles on the current global financial crisis. A few of his most recent articles that we discuss today are Instead of Real Financial Reform, Obama's Plan Capitulates to Wall Street, Bogus Solutions to the Financial Crisis, The Latest in Junk Economics, and the IMF collects debts on behalf of the world's largest banks. Michael Hudson, welcome.
Thank you very much, Bonnie.
The stock market is back up over 9,000. The Dow Jones Industrials, that is, are over 9,000 again. To what do you attribute this?
The government has given $13 trillion to the financial sector. Now, if you're going to give $13 trillion to the financial sector and flood the economy with money, obviously this is worth something. So essentially, the stock market is rising to reflect the government giveaway.
Now, we're reading that the banks that took the bailout money, that some of them are returning the bailout money. What's with this?
When they originally got the giveaway from the government made a charade of pretending that it was going to get some of the benefit from bailing out Wall Street. You had, for instance, Warren Buffett make a loan to a number of Wall Street institutions and make a huge killing on it. The government also said that, well, we have stock warrants that we're going to get so that if your stock recovers and you don't go bankrupt, then because we rescued you, we want to get something like Warren Buffett has. What they're getting is about 1/10 of what Warren Buffett had. The government has been utterly misleading and deceptive in what it has been saying it's got. It said that, well, look, we've just been reimbursed by Goldman Sachs, and we've made an annualized return of 23%. Well, they hope that the average reader is going to say, oh, an annualized return of 23%. That's a lot of money. But they don't realize that not even a year has gone by, and the companies are saying, well, wait a minute, we want, instead of giving you a share of our profits and a share of our capital gains we're getting, we want to repay you now at a very low price, so that we won't have to pay you more and so that you will not get a share of the gains we have. So they're paying the government way ahead of schedule. The government is not using its option to hold on and get much more later. It's essentially doing a giveaway to Wall Street and letting Wall Street buy shares on the cheap in itself that is enabling the large companies to pay much larger bonuses. The administration's aim is to increase, probably double the the size of the bonuses that they can pay on Wall Street by giving a windfall gain to Goldman Sachs and to Chase Manhattan and to the other major firms by letting them cash in their inexpensive stock now. And in fact, the most recent cash-in was saying, well, wait a minute, under the terms we negotiated that are so much better for us than the terms that Warren Buffett negotiated, if we go out and get private capital, and we can now go and get private capital because you've given us $13 trillion, so of course we're worth more, then you're crowded out and you don't get anything. So it turns out that the money that is being repaid to the government shows how utterly corrupt the giveaway of bailout money to these private companies was. There's been a huge transfer of resources from the public sector to Wall Street, and Wall Street wants to make sure that it doesn't have to pay the government for the gift that it's got.
Well, yes, I was just about to ask you what the deal is with the banks now claiming that they're profitable because we all thought they were bankrupt. Now, I mean, have they really become profitable?
Yes, they have. There's a difference between profits and capital losses. They had a huge capital loss that has nothing to do with operating profits. A company or a building or a person can be bankrupt and still make an income. They had worthless garbage, worthless fictitious mortgages and packages in their portfolios to back the deposits. They were able to take about $2 trillion of these junk mortgages and exchange these to the Federal Reserve for actual Treasury bonds, and this was the famous cash for trash trade-off. So they were able to give their junk to the U.S. government, which now holds the junk. So that has solved their balance sheet. Meanwhile, they're very profitable. There was a big article in the Financial Times today that banks are now making more money on late fees and penalties and overdrafts than they're actually making on interest. So they're making profits by increasing the cost structure to the American economy very strongly. And the more they can increase the cost of doing business to American families and to American companies, the higher their profits are. Their profits are directly proportional to how much they can raise the cost of doing business and raise the cost of living to Americans. And the government is saying, raise the cost by enough to make yourself profitable.
Well, that reminds me of a friend of mine, someone I know, who has a line of credit with one of the banks. It's a small amount, but he had been required as a minimum payment, this is on a credit card, a minimum payment of 2% every month if he wanted to just pay off the minimum. Now, he's gotten a letter from Chase saying, well, now you're going to have to pay as a minimum payment 5% a month or pay this off. Mm-hmm. So I guess they can just change the rules anytime they want.
Yes, that's in the small print, that they're allowed to change the rules. And if the person does not pay the 5%, then they have to pay very heavy late fees as well and penalties. So Chase has just been able to make a lot more money from the people that can't pay. Banks make money by what's called predatory finance, by making sure that they charge more than the customer can pay. Their objective is to take every bit of income the customer has and move it from their pocket into Chase's pocket or Wall Street's pocket. That's their business plan.
Yes, what you're saying now reminds me of something I read in the paper recently about why the banks are not foreclosing on properties to get the $1,000 that they would get from the government to rewrite the mortgage, because if they just string along, they make more money off of people going into default.
Yeah, what they do is they keep adding on late fees so that when the default occurs, they can claim reimbursement for all of the late fees and non-payments. And originally, banks made money from people paying interest on the money they'd borrow to invest productively. And the idea idea was that any profit or capital gain that the borrower gets, they turn over to the bank. But now the new business plan is the banks make money on the inability of the customer to pay. They get late fees, and then finally they turn to the government and get reimbursement for the mortgage, including all of the late fees and increased charges that are written into the mortgage.
Exactly, and then this explains why there aren't more homes actually in foreclosure, because they don't make as much money that way.
That's right.
Today's New York Times reports guaranteed bonuses back on Wall Street, and that Obama's pay czar, a person named Feinberg, won't be able to